What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future-free state of Greater Idaho. I am the one-armed madman, and from the Badlands of Southern Montana, it's Nolan 5150. What's up, Nolan? How you doing, man?
I'm alive, a little sad, looking for love on Tinder. Usually ends in heartbreak.
Dude, so I have this theory about the Mayo Clinic that it's like essentially a eugenics project in like real time. So it's like I go there to get my hand made, and Mayo Clinic's like one of the best hospitals in the world. And you get all of these people moving from all over the world to go and get the residency or whatever, just work anywhere in the Mayo Clinic. And it, like, when you go there and you roll through Tinder, it's like 10 doctor, 10 nurse, 10 scientist.
Yeah.
Like, dude, these chicks doing shit that, like, you don't even understand what it is in the bio. It's like from India, from fucking Slovakistan, from Norway, and just knockouts, man. I'm scrolling through there like, dude, I got no chance in this fucking city. But, like, for a good-looking young dude, if you want to, like, get a 10, a real fucking 10, go move to Rochester, Minnesota. That's the place to be. Dude, like, one of the guys that makes my hands, he was like a college football player, a good college football player, and he blew his knee out. So then he ended up going to the school somewhere, and then he transferred to go near the Mayo Clinic, and now the dude's working on hands. He's getting ready to go get his doctorate in something, I don't know what. And his wife is like some fucking knockout blonde from Sweden or somewhere like that, and she's some hardcore scientist that works with genetics or something like that. It's like, man, these people are going to have super kids coming out of this place.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I never thought about it like that as far as like location. You go hang around the country club, you're going to have better odds of finding some hottie with a fucking, what's the...
See, you got it all wrong, though. This is not a country club place.
Yeah.
Like, they call it Med City. So the whole fucking city is a hospital, essentially. There's big hospital buildings. There's room. When I was there last time, I was in the main building for an appointment, and some older woman, like in her 60s in a pantsuit, walks in, and she's got like full-on security with her. The suit, the earbug, the whole deal. And it's like, damn, man, you got people. One time I was there, and there was a guy with a fucking turban and the whole outfit and shit. It's like, homeboy flew all the way here from Saudi Arabia or wherever he's from just to go to a doctor's appointment and get some surgery. So,
damn.
Like, you're in the right place when you start seeing that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, knockouts. You scroll through and you're just like, no chance. No chance. No chance. No chance. And it just goes on and on and on.
You,
all right.
You just doom swipe and hope one of them has like a soft spot for blue collar guys.
Maybe a missing eye or something.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into it. We're going to continue on with our the saga continues with the future timeline. So the last decade, we were 2039 through 2049, and things started to heat up. We're right in that singularity hotspot. What's that guy's name? I don't fucking remember right now. Ray Kurzweil. We're right in his area. He's like 2047, I think, is when his timeline lines up for it. So let's get into it here. 2050. Humanity is at a crossroads. Let me move this thing closer because my eyes are not as good as I think they are. All right. The world of 2050 is a world of contrast and paradox. On one hand, science and technology have continued to advance in response to emerging crises, challenges, and opportunities. This has created radical transformations in genetics, nanotechnology, biotechnology, and other related fields. And this is, Mayo Clinic is where a lot of this shit is happening. my guy who did my hand, like he does hand transplants for practice.
Huh.
They suck, and he like wouldn't do one on me. He's like, "Nah, man, you're not a good candidate. You got to take AIDS drugs for the rest of your life. You're not good. We give these to old people." But essentially, he's preparing for a time when he can take my DNA, grow it in the other room, and then I can fly down and he can essentially graft another hand. They've got it going to where like you can use. Imagine how weird that would be. Like, what is that hand touched? How many times is homeboy jerked off? How many dicks is this thing, hammered out in its day?
Like it's calloused.
On the other hand, many of these same technologies have been so disruptive that it has led to more frightening, unpredictable, and chaotic world than ever before. Humanity is now at a crossroads that will determine the future path for centuries to come: survival or destruction, prosperity or collapse. Some of the most cherished political, economic, and social structures have been turned on their heads. This is like the first time that the timeline has actually like acknowledged political and social structures like being a limiting factor for technology. Like I think they go like really heavy on math, like, okay, this is how many transistors, this is how much storage we can have. So by this time we can do this, by that time we can do that. And they don't really take into account like the human element. Like I was listening to Doom guy on Lex Friedman a while back, the guy that created Doom.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about creating art. Did you listen to that one? When he was talking about artificial intelligence, he says that, it's only going to be a couple thousand lines of code. But you got to have somebody that's able to put together those lines of code. And it's going to be pretty hard to do that if you're like living in the Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
in a perfect world, yeah, a lot of this stuff is going to be happening and we're going to get access to some pretty cool technology. Like one of the things that I would like to be able to do with this podcast is look at these technologies that are coming down the pipe and start looking at like investment opportunities. Which one of these, what is out of these things, what's going to change the world? Let's look for some companies that are in this field that are under the radar, and let's maybe see what kind of shares we can get. I think that's a worthwhile endeavor to look at. I mean, we're so like, are you familiar with time preference? Time preference is an economic concept. It's like, so if you have a high time preference, that means you're looking in the future. A low time preference, you're looking right in front of you. We operate like typically in society, we operate on a low time preference. So we're looking at right at now, like especially in the United States, we're on a 4-year cycle. Sometimes 8 if we know, like Obama, that put us on an 8-year cycle. There was almost no chance he was not going to get elected again. But like right now, we're on a 4-year cycle. The Dems don't know if they're going to be able to win or cheat next term in 2024. So we're on a 4-year cycle. They're looking at things like this is what we want to do in the next 2 years because we may not get in again.
Yeah, that's one thing that's always kind of concerned me about our political system. Or, how much can you really get done? Is my question in a 4-year span. And then if you're lucky enough to get 8, you could probably get some done. But even still, what the answer is, I don't know. But it seems like our little short-term
The answer
system.
is radically. The answer is radically shrinking the federal government and going to a local-based system.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only true path that is going to be. And on that, let's go to our first story of the night. Boom. East Oregon movement to secede and create Greater Idaho picks up steam. A movement by East Oregon conservatives to secede to join Idaho is picking up steam, according to Daily Mail, which interviewed the movement's leader, Mike MacArthur. So we're getting close, like, who knows what kind of world we're going to be living in 2050. Like, imagine a war between California and Oregon and Idaho, or Oregon and Idaho based on, shit like this, border disputes. Like, hey, we're sick of being ruled by Portland and we want to go elsewhere. I think, like, and we're not going to go into this whole article, but I think the biggest hurdle in this entire movement would be Boise, because the people in charge in Boise don't want this shit.
Yeah.
They want to go more towards Portland. You know, they don't want to make me and you stronger. They want to make us weaker, push us out. My property taxes just went up $150 a month.
Are you serious?
Yeah, $150 a month. That's how they're going to get people like me out of here. They can't force me out. They, you know, I got in when getting was good, and you know, my house was 50% cheaper than it is now. But how are they going to push me out and get some, you know, migrant or some young Democrat in here that'll work for the Amazon plant up the street? What they really want to do is sell this house to BlackRock, so then they can just rent it to some family that's gonna, you know, go work some shit job and send their kids to some fucking shit public school where they can learn to be good little Democrats. So the way to do that is raise the property taxes. That's the only way you can really push somebody like me out.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't going to say anything about this on the podcast, but you know, who cares? I got some money from workers' comp. It's not a lot of money. It's like, you know, less than a year and a half wages for a journeyman lineman. But I was having like a financial meeting with a new financial planner. I went to one here in Boise that some family go to, and we're talking, and he was a nice guy. He's like, oh, I'm going to treat you like an individual. You know, your situation's different than other people's, and we're going to make sure. He had an interesting thought about capital gains tax. He goes, we're going to see, you know, what your capital gains tax is down the line based on what your income will be, because maybe we can get you a low enough income to get out of these. And I go, okay, you know, and I said something like, you know, the government's out of control with these capital gains taxes. They want to hit us with inheritance, capital gains tax on inheritance. And he goes, well, you may not like my take on this, but the government's got to make some money somehow. And I go, oh, okay.
Well, this meeting's over.
Yeah. And then he asked me like one more question, or a couple more questions. Like at that point, like I didn't like, the significance didn't hit me until afterwards. Like, I can't use this guy. Yeah. Like at the time, it was just like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that at all. Usually it's like, yeah, fuck the government. We're going to get you the best deal we possibly can. That's what I'm looking for. And so he goes, what kind of savings do you have? And I go, I've got about, you know, half a Bitcoin. And he laughs. And I go, so you're just going to laugh at me? You know, I've never had somebody come in here and say that. How much is a Bitcoin worth? Anyways, it's like, all right, I think, and then he started talking about how great the job, he's like, we're on, the economy's on the upswing. Jobs numbers are looking good. And I was like, I just read a report on Zero Hedge that said that those job numbers were completely fake and they were pumped up for this, and that. I don't remember what it was at the time, but I had literally read it that morning. And he was like, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I go, all right, whatever. So then I hook up with this guy who's been on Sam Tripoli before. And right away, he was like, oh, yeah, the economy's fucked. People are getting fired left and right. And he's right. Like, a bunch of people are getting fired in tech right now. Yeah. I think like 150,000 people got laid off in tech last year or something like that. Just wild. So I'm at least a little, I feel more comfortable going this direction. Oh, but where I was going with that is we were talking about like my finances, and you know, I started thinking about, because I'm gonna have to go back to work here pretty soon. Disability's not gonna be helpful to me, I don't think, for at least a year and a half. And you know, I start looking at my finances like, man, I got to do something else. And I start thinking about, I sent you a picture of that little tough shed, and I was like, I could drop one of these bastards in my backyard and rent it out, you know? And I start thinking a little more. It's like, man, I'm going to have some problems with my HOA. I guarantee it. Like, they're going to be a dick about it. So now I'm thinking I'm going to convert my dining room into a livable bedroom. Yeah. Probably rent it out for like $900 a month. I'm going to put like a bathroom, an enclosed bathroom inside of it. So it'll be a nice little room.
Right on.
And you know, that'll at least like lighten me up to where I don't have to work full time. I can survive on a part-time wage and do this, and you know, hammer away at that sci-fi book that I want to do, and just have a little bit more freedom at least. Like I can maybe get a job on some telemarketer bullshit, and then work at a bar, 1 or 2 nights a week. So we'll see what happens. All right, back to the timeline. Some of the most cherished. Okay. In a sense, capitalism remains the dominant economic model, but is now evolving drastically in response to economic impacts, resource scarcity, demographic trends, technology, and a host of other factors. So here comes socialism, baby. The endless consumer culture that was prevalent throughout the first world has all but collapsed, replaced by societal need to conserve. Ooh, baby. No more car for you.
What?
You like that motorcycle? Good, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get around anywhere. And then we're going to take that away from you, too.
What's the deal with those 15-minute cities? Like, so nobody goes.
Oh, so a 15-minute city. Yeah, they're going to be doing these in Europe. So essentially, they've got it set up to where everything you need is within 15 minutes of your home. And you have to like get permission from the government to leave your area. So you're like in an enclosed bubble of an area. And the idea is you'll consume less, you'll burn less fossil fuels, we won't have to have traffic. They're already doing this in Europe. I guess they're like shutting down certain streets at times of the day or times of the week. It's like here come the climate lockdowns. What do I got here? I don't think I even have any of my climate stuff anymore. Oh.
So what we have to do is flatten the curve and avoid the peak demands.
We are going to take your car. You will eat the bugs. Nummy. You have I see you have a big beard. You could have maggots live in your beard, and as you get hungry, you can pick them out and eat them. It'll be so good. You'll be saving the environment. Though there are still many wealthy people around, really, you think the wealthy are gonna survive this? Oh, money is money is concentrated in a shrinking upper class. By 2050, traditional free market capitalism is largely viewed as a broken system. So here's another story. Oh, come on. Fuck you, ads. Get out of here. Stefan and Anisha Curry oppose multifamily development near their $30 million home.
Oh, why?
So these fucking, who Steph Curry is. They buy this beautiful $30 million mansion, and then they try to put a low-income housing within the view of their backyard. And it's like, hey, man, we're cool with your shit as long as it's not in our fucking backyard. This is literally, they call it NIMBY, not in my backyard. And this is literally, they're like, no, man, this is my backyard, and I don't want these fucking people selling drugs back there trying to fucking rape my kids, And it's like, yeah, you bought a fucking place. We don't want government subsidized housing behind us. I don't want it. My neighbor, who has had a ranch in his family for 40 years, they have a beef cattle ranch. His dad died last year, and now he's got to sell the fucking ranch because inflation is so fucking high. There's so many regulations on the beef. He can't sell me a fucking cow if he wants to. He can't do it. He has to show where that missing cow is and this and that, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So he's selling it, and now I'm going to have some fucking industrial property across the street from my house, which is better than an apartment complex. But I bought a fucking house next to a ranch, not an industrial park.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes. Pushing out the little guy. They don't want any of this. They don't want any cattle farmers. Fucking, this is good news. We got rid of a cattle farm. Maybe we'll put a bug factory in. All right. Back to the timeline. As more and more wealth trickles upwards to the hyper-rich elite, there is a growing consensus that money itself, the profit motive, is a major obstacle to future progress, and a new driving force may be required for civilization to flourish. Debates are raging on whether reforms to make in order to adapt societies to this rapidly changing world. People everywhere sense that a great transition, maybe a great reset, is approaching, the likes of which has never been seen before in all of humanity. It is clear that some new global paradigm will appear, but it is still unclear what it will be. Here comes socialism, baby. This is what they want, man. This is your CBDC, your central bank digital currency. Hey, money itself is a problem. We got all these crazy right-wingers. They got guns. You know, they can't be going to the same stores as us. We got to limit them. The really fucked up thing is, like, right now, the only way that they can, like, manipulate the system is by printing money. And with CBDCs, not only can they print money, but they can also construct. They can take money out of the system. And that'll be really useful to them. This is the CBDCs is one of the most dangerous things on the planet right now. You got all the letters. If there's letters, like if it's an acronym, it's bad. CBDC. What's the other one?
IRS.
ESL, emotional social learning. Then you got
CRT.
Oh man, CRT. Then you got the sustainable development goals. Those are really bad too. So all these fucking letters that they throw at us are not good. All right, I think we get the okay. Well, no, it's still going. Decades of stagflation have produced a fragmented, chaotic, and perpetually sluggish global economy. Nearly half of the world's nations have junk credit ratings, effectively making them bankrupt. Yeah, I can see that happening. U.S. national debt has reached almost 400% of GDP, far exceeding even the level seen during World War II. China and India, through surpassing the U.S. in GDP, have also stagnated. And they're losing people at this point. At least China. I don't know about India, but at this point, China has a population collapse problem. So they're a massive bubble just waiting to happen. In the face of economic catastrophe, international politics has faced enormous challenges. Although the number of democratic countries has risen significantly over the years, many have turned inward, cutting off foreign relations. That's what they really hate. Like, if we decide to go, hey, you know what? No more NATO. Sorry, boys. Europe, you're going to have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
Something tells me they'd be making peace with Russia real quick because they'd need that energy. Mm-hmm. All right. Now I lost my spot. Revolutions, wars, and failed states have produced a strikingly different geopolitical map than seen at the beginning of the century. To repair and maintain the fabric of society, an increasing number of regions have abandoned their national currencies in favor of interest-free, non-fiat, non-inflationary local ones. Decentralized cash systems such as Bitcoin and other electronic alternatives have also exploded in use. So this is one thing that they are good on. They're good on Bitcoin and they're good on monetary. They can see that this is a bomb just waiting to go off. And you know, if they make it till 2050, they'll be lucky because this is just literally a ticking time bomb. And we don't know how it's going to collapse. It's going to at some point. The government, somebody might just pop on one day and go, hey, you know what? We don't have money to keep the lights on anymore. Sorry, we're shutting down all of our foreign bases because we don't have the fuel to keep these things running anymore. We just can't afford it. And it might just collapse. Kind of like the Soviet Union. You know, a lot of people didn't think the Soviet Union was about to collapse. They thought it was, you know, game on. This is the new way, the new Soviet man. We're going to change humanity and make a better world. Mm-hmm. And then one day it was just over.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not like they would be advertising at all that like, hey, we're in trouble, things aren't looking good, you know, we might collapse, because then that's just gonna, anybody who's looking to,
well, a lot of people were saying that this is just a ticking time bomb, it's not going anywhere. The problem is that a lot of people, especially the American media, were sympathetic to socialism and communism. They wanted it here. So if you start it's kind of like remember in 2016 when nobody in the Democratic Party would admit that like Donald Trump was doing well in the polls. It was like if they didn't acknowledge it, it wasn't there, it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. It was like there was problems, everybody knew there was problems, but we like it and we want it. So we can't talk bad about it because that'll just lead to its demise, essentially. So a lot, especially academics, I got in trouble at school this week, first fucking week, or second or third week it is, whatever. This kid really pissed me off. This is the last class for like your degree. We're like doing resumes was the first 2 weeks. And we had to do this like discussion board deal. And one of the questions was like, what major questions were you asking about yourself, life, the world before college, and how about now? And so like this is like a board, kind of just like any fucking message board. So it's got your picture and your name, and then you click on it. So this fucking kid, again, this is the end of fucking college. We're supposed to be going and getting a job or maybe transferring to a real fucking school. Has a anime picture of a fucking cartoon as his face in school. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So I click on it because I'm like, this is going to be good, whatever it is. And the kid goes, and I can't gender this person because who fucking knows at this point. So that's why I say the kid. Anyways, it's like the same. I keep asking myself the same question: is Christianity a cult? And I was just like, you fucking stupid bastard. Like, what are we in 9th grade history class? And you get stoned at lunch and you're going to ask the teacher, oh, let's get a laugh out of everybody. It's like, what is wrong with you? So I went at this fucker hard. I was like, what about COVID? What about climate change? What about QAnon? And I just really went at him hard. And there was a lot of really, I went fucking hard because I like to test the waters in the first couple weeks too. It's like, let's see what I can get away with,
Test the fences.
And I kind of, after I posted it, I was like, man, I maybe shouldn't have done that. And so I log on last night and there's this big long thing underneath it. And it's from the teacher. She's like, Nick. And then in parentheses, it says, and class, I usually don't comment on class discussions. I like to see where things go. But climate change, the science on climate change is settled. And then she like put this whole long thing about 97% of climate change scientists think the humans are a thing. And I'm like, all right, first off, science is never settled. It's a continually evolving process. Things change as new data comes in. And then I go, climate models have been wrong in the past. As late as 2013, NASA, academics, and the United States Navy were all saying that we were going to have an ice-free Arctic in the summer. That shit still hasn't happened. And in fact, there is more ice now than when they said that. So then I continue on. It's like, but I'll relent. I go, my point is that people are being programmed by governments and the mass media to think that the world is going to end in the same way as a doomsday cult. Throw away my line about the science being, and I also had to address the 97% because I think I've told you this. What they did is it's 97% of the climate change scientists who wrote about climate change say humans are a cause. So of all the climate change scientists, how many of them actually write about climate change? And then of those, wouldn't you think that it's probably the purpose of them writing about climate change so they can say that humans are causing climate change? So it's a very misleading stat. Yeah. So I had to address that too. And I was like, you completely, missed my point. Completely missed the point over a throwaway line. About this, about climate change. And of course, I didn't get a response because, they can't fucking respond to this shit. Yeah. The science is settled. And I also went hard on the vaccines. I was like, safe and effective. But as we all know, they're not effective. Pfizer knew the entire time they weren't effective. And I put receipts for all this shit. I linked in the bottom, I had like fucking 8 links in this thing. And I go, and look at all these athletes, and I'm athletes. And I go, how about the overall debt, the excess deaths, all these new studies on excess deaths since the vaccine came in. I literally had like 8 links going under this thing. And in a week, nobody fucking commented on it. Not one fucking person. All right. Social systems are extraordinarily stressed today. The younger generations are increasingly resentful towards the elderly. Yeah, I can see that happening. Seeing them as a cause for many of their problems, and a drain on capital as a ratio of workers to seniors continues to fall. That's another, if I were you, I would not plan on getting Social Security.
Yeah.
Because once these boomers are done, and once we've had our heyday, and we're 70 years old or whatever, these millennials aren't going to put up with it. I don't think, unless it's wild. Like they'll, I don't know. Maybe the system will be destroyed, but I don't think we're going to see Social Security. They're going to try and do this whole socialist system, but I think it all blows up and we don't see Social Security. Me and you. The rich and poor have continued to grow apart now that the upward social mobility has become next to impossible. Massive protests. Yeah, and that's true. Upward mobility. Look at you, for instance. How many years would it take for you to be able to buy a house on the salary that you're making right now? Just, one in your neighborhood. Probably quite a fucking while. I got lucky. Buying this house was the only smart thing I've ever done in my entire fucking life. And if it was right now, couldn't do it. Yeah. Not on the salary that I was making. No way. I mean, even making, a journeyman wage, $120,000 up here, you're still not looking at a great place. We're closer to California now than when I got here. Yeah. It's pretty bad. Massive protests outside corporate headquarters and gated communities are a daily reality on the news. Global warming has created almost 150 million climate refugees. 150 million. Something tells me this doesn't happen because of climate. It's probably going to be because climate change policies are going to destroy the third world, kind of like we saw in Sri Lanka. The World Economic Forum and all these other globalist organizations told them, go to this all green fertilizer. You guys are going to kick ass. You'll be the first one in the region to do it. It's going to boost productivity. You're going to be green. We're going to be able to pump you up. Look at them. Look at you. Look at you. And less than a year later, peasants were swimming in the royal pool. So that's where we're going to see all the refugees from. A 6-fold increase compared to 2010. 6-fold. So imagine 6 times what we have at our borders right now. Even the most liberal person in this country would not put up with that. They go, wall it up, throw some guns on top. We want dogs everywhere, maybe a moat with some crocodiles. Electric fence, Jurassic Park style. Maybe we can bring back a dinosaur by then, and we'll just have a dinosaur walking back and forth. That'd be fun.
Well, they're working on the woolly mammoth, right?
Yeah, man. They're gonna fix the Arctic with the woolly mammoth. It's an interesting theory. They say that because they're so heavy, they'll be able to affect the soil and keep all the CO2 into the soil. I just think that it'll probably be good for the area in general, because those areas need megafauna to thrive. So yeah, and they don't, like, the most productive times in human history have always come in warm periods. Whenever it gets cold, production, GDP, everything falls off a cliff. So, it gets warm in the next 20, 30 years. We're going to have some great fucking times. We're going to have these great fucking machines. Like ChatGPT will be legit by then. I've done a lot more playing around with it. I think this thing you should really play around with this thing at some point, because it's going to be important to learn how to use this shit. Yeah. And it's not as easy as just asking it a question. You got to learn how to prompt it. Like, it's not like asking Google. It's not like asking a person. This is a whole different thing. So the better you can learn to use this thing, the better off you're going to be in the future. They just released this other one now that does voices. It'll imitate people's voices. And that's going to be interesting. You know, if you can learn how to do comedic cuts with stuff like that, you're going to be hammering out, you know, great fucking content. Imagine being able to do an entire fucking rap song about how great Donald Trump is in the voice of Joe Biden. Yeah. Like, we're going to be able to, just because we don't like these like, I think this stuff's scary and we probably shouldn't do it, but it's going to happen. So we got to learn how to use it to our benefit. Kind of like with virtual reality. Like, I'd like to be able to get us on some fucking headsets at some point so we can learn how to use this stuff. So when there's finally a good product comes out that everybody wants, you know, the iPhone of VR, because that's going to come out. It's only a matter of time before some VR launches that everybody fucking wants. It's going to have some great game or some great fucking experience that you can't get anywhere else. I think porn is probably going to be a big driver of these things. You know, you're going to be able to, I'm serious, you're going to be able to put your fucking headphones on and then fuck your doll. And it's going to, you're going to have all kinds of fun with this thing.
Isn't porn like one of the driving forces usually for like entertainment advancement and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah. There's this book, there's this guy that's hot in the news right now because some shit he said a while back, Thaddeus Russell, and he wrote a book called History of Renegades, something like that, some sort of renegade. And his argument is that, like, culture and society is driven by the fringes. And I think it's a great argument. And that's kind of like where that porn argument falls in, where, like, yeah, I think it was probably a major, I mean, the iPhone was going to go big no matter what. But I think, like, as far as usability goes, that was a huge thing to be able to have, like, your own little porn screen. I think people really love porn. And it's a wild thing about our society, too, because everybody loves porn and nobody wants to, like, admit that they love porn. You know what I mean? It's like, it's this weird puritanical thing, I guess, because we, you know, stem from a Christian country. But it's like, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's different in other countries, but it's weird. Like, you read all these articles about how big the porn industry is and how much money you make. And it's like, everybody you know is watching this shit, but nobody wants to admit it or bring it up or anything. I always found that funny. All right. The influx of people to foreign lands has put a further strain on economics. You think? Resentment towards migrants has produced an upspring in nationalism, with many isolationist parties sweeping government elections. Maybe the Libertarian Party. That'd be nice. To maintain order and stability, martial law and military occupation is a feature of many cities around the globe. Radical new political parties and movements have emerged advocating for the overthrow of the reigning system. So, yeah, military occupation in cities. Look at what was just going down in China with their zero COVID policy. Can you imagine that going down in half the cities in Asia, Africa, and India? Like, who knows if it actually will? Like, we're going to be in for some serious, the one thing that they've got right on here is the economics. Like, the economics is going to lead to all of this shit just hitting the fan at once. Like, you're going to have all these people that are dependent on government assistance, and it's just going to dry up. Or inflation is going to get so bad that it doesn't matter what they give you. You're just going to, there's this story about Weimar, Germany, where this guy had to fight to get his life savings out of the bank. And it was like, equivalent to a couple $100,000 American today. And by the time he got it, the check that it was printed on and the ink that it was written out with was worth more than the money in his account. That's how bad their hyperinflation got.
Wow.
Then we get World War I and World War II. That's where my people came from, is Weimar. And I don't know a lot about our history, but something tells me that they came over during that entire economic disaster that they had. Recycling and waste management for decades, neglected by many countries, are among the issues now taking center stage. New regulations and market pressure have forced corporations to move away from the model of planned obsolescence and mass production to one of conservation and responsibility. I wouldn't mind that. Getting rid of the planned obsolescence. Give me a fucking phone that, my iPad went out just a few weeks ago, and it was like, when I started thinking about it, it's not even worth fixing because you got to buy a new one at some point, and all you're doing is just dropping a couple $100 to limp it along, and at some point they're just going to stop updating the damn things anyways.
Yeah.
I do not like what they're getting to, though. In a world of increasing resource conflicts, doing more with less, quote, doing more with less has become an essential mantra. You will have nothing, you will own nothing, and you will be happy. And if you're not happy, we don't care. We don't care. A system is also employed whereby customers return products at the end of the life cycle to be used as materials for the next generation. And if you don't bring it in, you're going to get dinged. There goes your social credit score. Maybe we'll yank some money out of your account. Maybe you won't be able to buy a phone next time. Maybe we'll just rent you one and say, hey, if you don't turn it in, we're just going to drop your credit score a little bit, and then you're not going to be able to get a loan. In some of the worst hit countries, mandatory resource dumps are organized in which citizens are obligated to recycle any unnecessary possessions. Obligated. Gotta love that. Obligated. That's a weird word because it's like, are we talking about force or like a social obligation? Like Neil deGrasse Tyson was arguing for a couple weeks. We signed a social contract. That's why you have to get the vaccine, because you have a responsibility not to get me sick, even though, vaccine didn't fucking protect you. But that's kind of the argument there. And at what point does this social contract that we have all implicitly signed, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, I hate that fucking term too, when does it go from like social obligation to forceful obligation? Yeah. And what does that force imply? Are you going to take my car? Are you going to take my money? Are you going to relegate me to some fucking ghetto that I'm not allowed to interact with polite society on? This shit's fucking creepy when you start like thinking out how far they're going to take it.
Yeah, probably.
It's some really creepy shit.
Probably all the above.
Yeah, probably. I still think we're looking at like, at some point, you're going to roll up to the Golden Gate Bridge and you're going to have a toll person there, but it's not going to be for a bridge toll. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, let me see your vaccine. It's going to be, show me your phone, essentially. And they're going to go through and say, how many crimes has this person committed? What is their social score like? What have they said on social media? And, of course, like, what kind of vaccines do they have? What kind of shit do we need to pump? And they'll probably have a person right there to do it. Oh, you don't have this. You need to get this vaccine now. Luckily, I've got one right here. So you don't even have to get out of your car. I can just fucking, right in the neck. One time I was in jail and this guy made a fucking syringe because he had some, like, I don't remember what it was. It was either fentanyl or oxy. And he made this fucking syringe out of, dude, I don't even remember, but it was fucking thick. It was real thick. And he couldn't get a vein anywhere because he was a hardcore fucking addict. So we're like covering up. We're like holding sheets up, and like holding sheets up is, you're not supposed to do it, but it happens quite a bit. So like they don't really come at you too heavy. So we're like holding sheets up a little bit, kind of like we're fucking around doing this and that. Meanwhile, he's jabbing this fucking like, think like it was probably a needle that you pump a ball up with.
Oh, fuck.
He's got something like that, and he's just fucking jabbing in his neck, trying to find a fucking vein to shoot up with this shit. It was the gnarliest thing I've ever seen.
Did he ever find one?
Yeah, oh yeah, dude, he got it. It took him like 4 or 5 tries, and he had blood like all down his fucking shirt. And they're like, "Where's the blood? What happened to the blood?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I was working out in the fucking," because this was a work camp. Like it was, it was like bunks, so everybody had bunk beds and shit. And then he went out and worked during the day. Yeah, man, it was wild. That was some fun shit. Like you have some like. You're all loaded. You all load into these vans, and everybody's a fuck up, so we're all having fun. And as soon as the fucking guards get out of the van for any purpose, all the vents come out, and you're just fucking reaching and grabbing, and everybody's finding tobacco and chew and rolling cigarettes, and it's fun. It's fun, dude. I mean, as far as like being in jail goes, it's about as much fun as you can have. Meanwhile, the widespread use of robots, automation, 3D printing, and other technology has rendered obsolete many traditional human roles. Though industries have made vast improvements in speed and efficiency, it has come at an expense of a declining labor force. Consequently, overall government revenues have seen a net reduction. Yeah, man. After that, like every time you'd see somebody you knew in line or in jail or something like that, anybody see you shoot him in the neck, shoot it in the neck. You'd be yelling, shoot it in the neck. That was the first time I was in with any like real criminals, and there was this guy, and he looked like he was about 17, but he was about 35, and he started bragging about picking up young girls. And this black dude just put a beating on this fucking guy. It was brutal. It was fucking brutal. All right. Despite this turmoil, progress is achieved in cooperating a key issue, such as global warming. Carbon emissions have fallen subsequently compared to 1990 levels, thanks to global carbon taxes and a widespread development of solar, wind, and wave power. Here I've got an article from the Institute for Energy Research. Despite tax incentives, wind and solar project installations have slowed. New wind installations have dropped 77.5% in the third quarter of 2022. So we're doing a great job on this. I did a little bit of research because I like looking into this stuff. So let's quickly recap our 2030 and 2050 goals for our green grid. In the United States today, we have 640,000 miles of transmission lines. In order to make our 2030 goals, we need to reduce 50% of our CO2, which is 6 billion tons. And in order to do that, we're going to have to build a green grid, and that grid is going to be 60% larger than the one we have today at 420,000 miles of transmission lines. That is 155 times across America, or 16.8 times around the world. So we're wrapping transmission lines around the world 16.8 times, like Kim Kardashian and her fucking squeezing her gut in. By 2050, we've got to go up to, 1.26 million miles of transmission lines. That is 452 times across America, 51.6 times around the world. All right. When you're putting out goals like that, if you're just an ignorant person, you don't know what's going on. The government goes, we're gonna make these 2030 goals, and they tell you we're gonna build 420,000 miles of transmission lines. You would probably think, wow, we probably build a lot of transmission lines in this country. Nolan, how many miles of transmission lines do you think we build in this country per year?
I'm gonna I'm gonna do the Price is Right bid and say $1.
For $1, we build at an average 1,800 miles per year. Last year, we only built 386 miles of transmission lines.
Where's all the rest of them built? Or who's gonna pick that up? Is it gonna be China?
Well, 60% of our current grid is already in need of replacement. Yeah. And when I was in school, 50% of the electrical industry was within 20 years of retirement. Now that's at about 10 years. And I got that stat in another book that was called The Grid. It's a Bill Gates pick. So you know where it's coming from. Same fucking stat. So I believe it. I fucking believe it. So we don't have anybody to build it. Our current system is falling apart. I still have copper power lines outside of my house. I guarantee you still have copper power lines outside of your house. You probably got a 1970 date nail on your poles outside your house, about the same as mine. Shit all needs to be replaced. We don't have anybody to do it, yet we need to increase this. And yeah, so at 1,800 miles per year, 233 years it's going to take us to build a green grid.
Wow.
So, I mean, this stuff is just fucking talk.
Yeah.
We can't do this if we want to. This is I tried to make this point in my class. I was like, we can't do this if we want to. And they're like, oh, of course we can, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. I lay out these stats and they're like, well, how are we going to do it then? I go, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's exactly what I'm saying. It's wild. Radical Islam and its resentment to the West continue to produce new jihadists. In addition, so maybe we'll have a new war on terror.
Yeah.
We'll have the domestic war on terror and the international war on terror. Maybe we'll even get a new government agency. They'll separate themselves. CIA internal, CIA external. In addition to underground groups raging from those angry at first world neglect to anarcho-primitivists. Try to say that one with dentures 3 times fast. Have sprung up. By 2050, at least one terrorist nuclear attack on a major world city has been conducted by one of these groups. Large amounts of nuclear material had been missing from Russia since 1990s, and some of those inevitably fell into the wrong hands, being orders of magnitude greater than 9/11. The effects of this attack leave a deep psychological scar on many people alive today, fueling much of the paranoia and suspicion between nations. So that's an easy prediction that we'll be able to see if it's right or wrong. 2050 nuclear attack. And I think there is some shit missing from Russia. I think we might have brought that story up once, but there was that story where some drug dealer was gonna buy a Russian submarine, and they asked if he wanted nukes with it. Oh man! All right. Despite the turmoil, progress has been achieved in cooperating on key issues such as global warming. Carbon emissions have fallen substantially compared with 1990 levels. Oh, wait, I already read that. Oh, maybe I didn't. All right, maybe I didn't. I think I did, but whatever. Carbon emissions have fallen because of global carbon taxes and the widespread deployment of solar, wind, and wave power, which, as we just showed, is not being deployed, together with 4th-generation nuclear, which they're not going to let us build. I mean, we've built one nuclear plant in this country since the 1970s. It doesn't seem to be going any quicker. Fossil fuel reserves were declining in any case. No, they're not. We've got enough coal in this country, just in North America, to power our current society for 3,000 years. So that's bullshit. Fusion power is also becoming available now. and it's being adopted by some of the leading nations. Orbital solar is another emerging industry. Energy efficient and conservation have efficiency and conservation have provided further reductions in CO2 output. And yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing space-based solar. Like we've already got. Okay, here's another story that we've got. Let's see. Oh, it's in my other app. Here we go. This is a fun one. 2 bald eagles nested in a pine for years. A utility company tried to chop it down. There's a great quote in here. Up a winding Northern California highway, there's beneath a 120-foot Podesta pine tree. A group of environmentalists gathered up for some blah blah blah. But this year, so they want to put this thing down. They need to cut this down because the tree is going to fall on the pole and start a fire, essentially. So here we go. Lawyers from the tribe besearched the utility company to reconsider. Locals printed up signs to save the nest. In recent weeks, activists and tribal elders protested, prayed, and physically barricaded themselves alongside. They had to cherry pick. Damn it. Here it is. Environmentalists and Coyote Valley Band of Pomo Indians countered that PG&E, which is facing increasing pressure to stop its equipment from starting fires across the state, should move their power lines instead. You know, these bald eagles can't nest in another tree right over there. And so they've got crews of people standing by this tree with cameras trying to prove that the eagles still live in the tree. And they can't get pictures of the eagles living. So the eagles don't even fucking live there anymore.
They finally find the eagle and he's like, yeah, man, that's just my summer home. That's my summer tree.
That's one power line. Imagine trying to build 420,000 miles of lines with people like that on every fucking one of them. Every one of them is going to have some sort of issue like that. It just can't fucking happen.
Yeah. One thing that blew my mind, like when I was working in California as a soil tech, checking compaction of asphalt, and this was on Camp Pendleton.
Yeah.
And so that all that ground's been torn up and moved and recompacted, whatever, but they still needed like two government employees to sit there and watch everything that was going on, just in case something was uncovered or some bullshit. I'm like, maybe if it was some virgin ground that hadn't
rat poop inspectors.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Fucking rat poop inspectors. They sit around with their gloves on. Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of rat poop inspectors in my fucking days working in restaurants. Tell you what, it's like you kind of know the time that they're going to be there. Not like within a couple of days, essentially. So somebody's always on lookout. If you see them, make sure you got everything in line. It's a whole fucking racket. Everybody knows that it's a racket. Like some of their laws are fucking crazy that just would make bartending impossible if you followed their laws to the T. It would just be completely fucking impossible. Like you're supposed to wash your hands every time you touch money. You're supposed to wash your hands every time you touch a piece of fruit. Every new drink, you're supposed to wash your hands. You're supposed to wash your hands. Like the bars that I worked in, if I followed letters to the T, I'd have to wash my hands 200 times a day.
Yeah.
It's just, and you're not really touching anything that you can contaminate. You grab a glass like this. You don't touch a glass up here. Nobody does that. It's wild. Like they just destroy business. Governments they get their dirty little paws dug in on something and they just completely fucking destroy business. It's wild. All right, let's run through a couple more of these highlights for this decade and then we'll call it a night. 2051. Oh, wait, here we go. Nearly half of the Amazon rainforest has been deforested. And, who knows? Brazil's in major. I don't know if you've seen any of the stories about their guy didn't win. There's massive protests. The guy that the president they've got now is a fucking convicted felon, socialist. So who knows what's going to happen in that country? Yeah. They could go hardcore communist and just burn down the entire fucking place within a matter of years.
Better get down to Rio before that happens. I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah. I'd love to do that. Wildfires have tripled in some regions. Traditional wine industries have been severely altered by climate change. They've been talking about this for a long time. I mean, they've been saying that Northern California is going to be fucked for wine, but it just keeps getting better. Like Sonoma County, when I grew up, it was great for wine. When I left, it was incredibly great for wine. Like, it just keeps getting better. Fish body size has declined by nearly a quarter. Maybe that has to do with the same thing that's making our fucking sperm counts decline, and male sphincter size is shrinking. The gooch size is shrinking on males.
I was curious about that. I was going to try to measure mine, but the logistics don't pan out.
Yeah, dude, I could not do it at all. Like, could you imagine one-handed trying to fucking gooch measure? What you got to do is you got to stick a string up your butt, and then you whip it around to the front, and then you pinch on one side, and then you pull it out, and you go from the poo side to the pinch. Life hack. Figured it out. Fucking nailed it. All right. High-tech intelligent buildings are revolutionizing the urban landscape. Smaller, safer, high-tech automobiles. Yeah, smaller, safer, because you're only going to be going 20 miles an hour. It's going to be a fucking go-kart with a little battery on it, and you're only going to be able to go 15 miles anyway. So, of course, it's going to be smaller and safer. Yep. Major advances in travel comfort. Recreational marijuana is legal in the majority of countries. There was actually a good story on that today. U.S. ban on pot users owning guns ruled unconstitutional. So there we go. More gun rights. You know, the shit looks bad in the news, but gun rights keep expanding. When I moved here to Idaho, you had to have a concealed carry license. Now we're constitutional carry.
Nice.
I think that's going to keep going further and further.
Montana's lawmakers or whatever apparently voted or said they weren't going to enforce the arm brace ban.
The what?
You know, whatever the one that they just passed saying.
That, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. They have them on those little subs, those little submachine guns. I was looking at getting one of those when I got my AR because it's nice and small and compact, but I think I'm just going to get like at some point, I want to buy a 3D printer. So I've got a couple ideas. So imagine this is how I would be riding a dirt bike with this arm. It's gripped around here. It's not this exact arm, but same principle with the hook. So you're hooked in good, but it's still just kind of weird. You can't straighten your arm out. So last time I was at the Mayo Clinic, I asked the guy, I was like, why don't we have something like an elbow brace? So you've got a strap here. You got maybe my idea would be kind of a cloth thing that you would stick your arm into and then pull a string to tighten it. And then you would have more clamps down here, and then it would string out into a hook. So then you would be able to completely move. You'd have full mobility, and you could hook it up to a dirt bike. You could do whatever. Their idea is to get less arm on you. My idea is to get more, but it would be far more mobile. Yeah. So my grandfather up here has a CNC machine, and I'd like to get a 3D printer. So imagine if I could make an elbow brace, like a working prototype of this thing. And then I could take it down to my prosthetics guy, and he could build me a fucking bitchin' arm that nobody's ever seen before. So that's something I'd like to fuck with. And hey, maybe if I get good enough with the 3D printers, and Bob's really good with the CNC shit. He's really good with that stuff. Maybe I can just make my own. Technology's so good now that like what you do is you buy one of those scanners. Have you ever had like something scanned for a brace? They like scan your whole arm or your whole leg, and then they bring up a 3D model, and then they can print or like 3D print or like CNC rubber or plaster version of your leg or your arm, and then build off of that. So what you do is you buy one of those fucking things, and somebody wants an arm, you send them that, they use it, scan, send it back, and then you send them a fucking arm. Yeah. That kind of shit wouldn't be possible. You know, that's possible now. Imagine what's going to be possible 10 years from now. Maybe everybody has some sort of scanner. One of the things I think they've missed on this list is augmented reality. So like a pair of sunglasses that you can see shit with, like a HUD. You know what I mean? So imagine like, this is where I had an idea for it, was doing line work. We were doing line work and we were setting poles a lot that were by pipelines. And they would mark them, and you would just kind of have to, you know, I don't know if it's a 12-inch pipe, 6-inch, 8-inch pipe. We had one time where we were really fucking close to these pipes, and you had to have the guy line there. It couldn't go anywhere else. And it's like, it sure would be bitching if you could just see everything under there. So imagine having a pair of sunglasses where you put them on. Your company already has access to all of the, you know, lines and everything that's underneath the ground. So you just put these things on and boom, you can see where those gas lines are right underneath you. And with some relatively like ease of knowing where you're going. Like it may not be exact, but it sure as shit's going to be better than nothing, you know? So I think some stuff like that is going to be a big fuck. You know, it's only going to take one company that's able to shrink this shit down enough to have a wearable pair of glasses. You know, I'm seeing now they make like snowboard helmets that have a HUD in front of them, and you can use a map. Like you can upload the trail map from the resort that you're at, and it'll show you which way to go. Kind of like a map quest type of thing. Cool. That's fucking cool. You know, like. It's going to be capable of doing shit like that we can't think of yet. That's why I think we need to be on top of this stuff. And you know, it just takes one good idea to come. There were so many things that I should have thought of as a kid. Like we made trampoline bikes and trampoline scooters. Like I loved the trampoline scooter. We took apart a little razor scooter and you put the shit on it and you could fucking whip it around and do flips and shit like that. I remember
seeing those at your
now.
house.
Yeah. Now they make those. They sell them. You know, they have a scooter. It's soft. It's kind of rubbery on the bottom. It has a little bit of a curve to it. And they're like $150. Duh. You know? I made fucking 5 of those things. I never thought to make something like that. And it would have been difficult back then. Now, man, you have an idea like that. You go to your guy, you know somebody with a CNC machine, you know somebody with a 3D printer, and you get this shit made up in a day, and you go test it, and you go, hey, look it, we got a fucking product.
Sell it to Walmart.
Sell it to fucking Walmart. You know, this guy that I went hunting with when I grew up, he worked at Santa Rosa's sewage department. He used to shovel shit for a living. That's what he did, and he was a really good hunter, and he was really into everything, and he's a craftsman. His house is incredible. He built his own pool table. He built his own bar stools. Like he's just incredible. And one day he came up with this idea to do a European mount, a mold. So he started his own company, Mountain Mikes, and he does these European mounts, and now he makes furniture. He makes deer antler shit you can hang on your walls. He makes lamps. He makes, you know, chandeliers, all that shit. He retired from his you know, dump job real quick. His wife got to retire from her job. Now they can sit at home and do what they love, making fucking hunting gear.
That's cool.
It's fucking cool.
Yeah, those antler chandeliers are expensive.
Yeah. I'm gonna deck out my house with some new art. I'm sick of my art. My art sucks. I found a really bitchin' skull that I'll show you after the podcast. I'll say maybe I'll go like this. That's gonna take a lot of editing for something that nobody's gonna see. Fuck it, I'm not doing it.
We'll get there.
All right. U.S. population reaches 400 million. An interstellar radio message achieves Gleisel 777. And on that one, we got one more fucking story here. We're almost done, I promise. Oops. Physicists are pretty damn sure we can travel faster than the speed of light, research shows. Now, I read this whole fucking article. It's a Popular Mechanics article. It's fucking good. I don't understand what the fuck they're talking about, so I can't even summarize it. But I thought it was pretty goddamn cool. You know, this is something that I've always thought was ridiculous. All these people, oh, we can't travel faster than the speed of light. It's like, how much shit has been changed just since we were kids, you know? Like other planets didn't exist. Pluto was a fucking planet. Like there's all kinds of shit that has happened since we've been alive. All right. Britain holds Centennial National Exhibit. The suburban rail loop is operational in Melbourne. Launch of the X-ray Great Observatory, another telescope. 2052, the biggest supermoon of the 21st century. That should be fun. 2053, genetically engineered designer babies for the rich. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, if Trailer Trash was able to have this technology? Like, you remember Honey Boo Boo?
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if her mom had the technology? I'm going to make me a girl who can win a beauty pageant. She going to be pretty. She going to have a nice dress on. She going to have nice curls. We're going to give her some monsters, and she going to perk up and win us a beauty contest. Tell you who what? Australia becomes the first country to eliminate cervical cancer. I don't know why Australia, but okay. Maybe that's because, like, all of their women have been transitioned by that point. So all their cervixes have been removed. Mission to interstellar object Oumuamua. That's that chunk of debris that
flat, like,
God,
weirdly.
Avi Loeb thinks could be a piece of technology. So that could be cool. I wonder how they're going to build something fast enough to catch up with that fucking thing. I know it was moving.
Yeah.
Rainfall intensity has increased by 20%. So we're not going to have any ice caps. We're going to have fires because there's too much heat. People are dying because there's too much heat. But also, we have 20% more rain. Spaceflight has taken a leap forward. The vast majority of companies have achieved democracy. They should have in parentheses, and are on their way to socialism. Global population is reaching a plateau. Traditional media have fragmented and diversed. Yeah, no more corporate media, no more Fox, no more CNN. And I think that sounds like the right timeline, actually. They can probably limp it out for another 25 years. Maybe 30. Smart clothing is $1 trillion industry. See, like, this is what I'm talking about with investing. You look at something, they go, this is going to be $1 trillion industry. It's like, well, maybe we should find the startup that's doing this type of thing. You know, it's not going to come from Nike. Nike's going to buy the company that does this and put a Nike sign on it. I've got another story. Ford sold almost all of its stake in Rivian last year. So Ford just did to this Rivian company what somebody else did to Harley with the live wire. They jacked it up. We're going to do this big thing. They went public, and then they pulled $1.2 billion out and just let the thing tank. There's going to be so many green scams over the year. Like, in the next 30 years, we're going to see so many high-level green scams. It's going to be fucking beautiful. I mean, like SBF, but with wind turbine. Like, have you been following? They're trying to put this wind farm offshore on the East Coast, and they're just killing whales left and right.
I haven't heard that. I think I heard something about
Dude, whales are washing up on shore. The former head of Greenpeace is like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You're drilling into the ground. You're pounding on rocks. You're blowing these fucking whales' eardrums out and killing them. What's wrong with you? Fox is all over this. Jesse Waters and Tucker Carlson are all, we're going to save the whales. It's pretty fucking funny because, you know, they don't give a shit about the whales. They just want to dig the Dems. Own the libs. Global average temperatures have risen by 3°C. The Beatles' music catalog enters public domain. A radio telescope built on the moon. And the end of the oil age. Bump, bump, boom. No more oil for you. You will drive a Tesla and you will like it. Drive the Tesla, eat the bugs, walk to work. Go fuck yourself. Good night.